Hello, everybody. I'm Frances Rahaim, the Money Doctor with Hug Your Money. And today I'm here with a public adjuster named Rick Carter, also the author of How to Settle Your Claim. Hiring a public adjuster was so valuable to me personally. And it seems that when I speak to people, they've never heard of this. So welcome, Rick. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Francis. I'm really looking forward to our chat together.
Well, here's my take on it. You're going up against a large company whose job is, I hate to be cynical about this, I've met several adjusters who actually were really good. They've come out and given, just given a really fair claim, and that's it.
Most are conscientious and they want to help people, but their time is pressed. You kind of hope that the adjuster that comes out is skilled and has the time available to properly assess your damages.
Right, we see it all the time. I'm not saying insurance adjusters are bad. I'm just simply saying who's paying them.
Yeah.
Because I help people with money. That's what we do. We help people get out of debt. We help people retire, make a budget, all of that. So anything that has to do with personal finance, I really want to get the information out there to help our clients.
Absolutely.
So tell me, if you will, Rick, who the burden of proof is on for this claim.
The burden of proof is something that most people have no clue as to what that is. So insurance language, the burden of proof means whose job is it to prove that there was a loss? The insurance company. So first of all, it's your job to file the claim, right? So you filed a claim because nothing's going to happen unless you initiate it. You can't expect them to come out and do everything. So first you have to initiate it. And they're going to say, what type of loss is it? And you need to be able to tell them, well, was it plumbing? Was it a roof leak? What was it, a fire? Whatever it was. And then they're going to send someone out. If the loss was to your house, Francis, then it's your job to prove the losses. But if you disagree, you're going to have to prove that they're wrong.
This might be more of a legal question, but it just happened, so I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
So someone I know has a slate roof on their property, and several years ago they had ice dam damage. There was a lot of ice dam damage here. And so an adjuster came out and said to them, not only are we not going to pay you for the ice dam, but we're going to pull your policy unless you replace your roof.
Yeah.
We're not going to cover. They said, you don't have to replace the roof, but we're not going to cover this slate roof. And I asked her, I said, well, how long have you had the property and how long have you had that insurance company? Did they cover it without looking at it to begin with? But I thought that was an interesting situation because they basically said, look, it's an old slate roof. We're not going to cover it. Yet these people have been paying their premiums assuming that their roof is covered. And I said, you have to check your policy and see if there was an exclusion. What do you think about it?
Well, I'm not an attorney, nor can I practice law. Okay, but based upon what you have said to me, the things that I would be saying, when the insurance agent writes the policy, normally in that policy there's questions, and it's going to ask the type of construction. Is it concrete? Is it wood? Is it metal? It's going to ask what type of roof does it have. And they're going to put it's shingles or a standing seam or slate or a membrane. There's different types of roofs. So that roof should have been listed because that's determining your premium. The type of construction determines your premium. If it's concrete, your premium is going to be much lower for the fire portion of your coverage than if it's a wood house. So the slate roof, because that's a heavy roof, that's an expensive repair, that should have been included in her coverage. And I don't write policy, so I'm not an expert in this. Okay, but I know that if the agent who wrote the policy didn't inquire, then they may have recourse to go through the errors and omissions and file a claim against the agent. Now, if they did have coverage and it was stated it was a slate roof, then it seems to me it should have been paid. Sometimes there is construction-related problems, but it's been on there a long time. And it would need to be argued. And this is one of the areas where a public adjuster can help with that, to help define those things, what is and what isn't going to be covered. There's a nationally known firm that's a forensic engineering firm. When a building collapses or a roof collapses, they get called in to investigate. I'm certified with them as a certified residential roof inspector. So I would look to see what's causing the damage, why the ice dam is there, was it properly installed. Those could be some issues. You may have a roof that's under warranty, and there may be improper installation, and you could have recourse against the installer. But you could have a hail claim, and you may have an adjuster that's up there estimating it. Again, hail could hit a lot of homes in an area, and he's got 50 claims where he usually had 5, and he's spending 10 minutes on your roof.
Yeah.
I just overcame a roof. It's $20,000 loss. And the insurance company paid it, but previous, they were going to pay $600 for repairs. There are standards in the insurance industry that people have to be trained, but the level of experience, let me give you an illustration. One person might say they're a mechanic, and they change oil and they change tires and they do inspections and they do a few things. Another person says they're a mechanic and they could tear the engine out of your car in a day and put it back over the weekend. And they both have the same title.
Yes.
It can be the same way with adjusters. I know how to properly investigate. Sometimes we need other experts, and an experienced public adjuster will know who we'll need to bring in. Yeah, and you shouldn't be stressed. You shouldn't feel guilty. Julie helps me with personal property, figuring out the contents. So she hears a lot about the emotional stress that they're going through. The house can be rebuilt, but when your photos of your parents' wedding is burned up, that's emotional stuff. Most states forbid by law contractors to negotiate with insurance companies, although they try to do it all the time, but they're not licensed to negotiate. We are. And we know how to write the estimates that are very detailed. A lot of contractors, I'm sure you're aware, have tried, maybe gave you a 2 or 3 page estimate. I think your estimate was like 40 pages, if I recall. I've had insurance agents that own brokers that have hired me because they couldn't deal with it. And I did it, and they're in the background. And when we got all the money, I said, "Is that acceptable?" They say, "Yes." I said, "Sign here." Check comes, and then I say, "Okay, now you can pay me my fee." Now, yesterday in my Zoom presentation, it was 36-unit condo. I spent 3 weeks on site, and then another 2 months writing my report. It was a $980,000 increase. So we had the attorney there, we had the president of the HOA in the room, we had the opposing counsel's attorney from the insurance company, and then we had the mediator who was an attorney. So they all sat there. But I brought into the Zoom, it was a Zoom call because for COVID reasons, they asked it to Zoom. So I was importing estimates, I was importing photos, everything that I would show a person in person, I was bringing up on their Zoom screen. And when I go to present, I'm presenting documentation and the cost and what it would be in photographic reports, sketches, drawings of the damage, causation, all of those things. And so I go round and round with the adjuster. Usually it gets kicked to another adjuster, a hired supervisor. We'll bring in a third party, or we'll bring in an additional building consultant. And I'll defend my adjustment toe to toe. And at the end of the day, I'll say, "Okay, this is what we have. Are you willing to accept this as their offer?" And not only can a public adjuster do that for the structure, but if they're adequately trained and equipped, they can help you with your personal property, your contents. They can also help with your loss of use. Why are you sitting in a little 1-bedroom apartment when you have 5 in your family? So there's a lot of things that we can help, and it removes you from that stress, because most people, like I talked about, they're already overstressed. They just need someone to manage this for me, take care of it. And the great thing is, although some public adjusters charge by the hour, I don't like that method, because it puts people owing me from the beginning, and they're hoping, I hope he doesn't spend another hour because it's going to cost me. Yep. And I work on a contingency. If I don't, and that's the way most public adjusters are, if I don't get you more money, you owe me nothing. And I'm incentivized to maximize the claim. The damages have to be legitimate, but I know how to find the damages to get your property restored. I won't take on a claim unless I feel money's left on the table. And at the very least, you know that you're getting a third set of eyes looking at it.
I was just remembering the day that you were meeting with the other insurance adjuster there. I was able to see the meeting. And there you were at my kitchen table, page after page, and there were 2 guys standing there looking, and you were saying, "We can go through this all line item by line item." And the guy said, "No, you have it all down there, just send it to me." And you're like, "But there's this and there's that." And the guy was like, "Just send it to me." And they signed off on everything you had. You brought third-party companies in to give us the kind of data we needed. It was brilliant. It was really brilliant.
I want to point out something, and I'll make this real brief, that you mentioned that I told you we should bring in a third party. And the reason is because the storm happened in September, but you didn't contact me. You didn't know about me until, I think it was like February or something. It was months later.
I was busy arguing with the insurance company who was putting me off by another week,
Yeah.
another week, another week.
Yeah.
I finally just had it.
Yeah, so at that point in time, all the walls on the inside, if you were to look at the walls, they were wet, for a month afterwards. Well, at that point in time, they were pretty dry because you kept your air conditioning running.
Right.
But the problem was that air conditioning doesn't get inside the wall cavities between the exterior and the interior. And that's why I said we need a third party to come in here. And he did, and I recommended an industrial hygienist who I had confidence in. He came in, he did in situ wall samplings, he penetrated the wall, and he found mold within those walls. Now, you had a mold exclusion in your policy, but we wrote it in such a way that this is water damage, not mold, because they would say we don't pay mold. We said this is water damage, and the proof of the water damage is this mold growth. But we're not filing a mold claim, we're filing water damage claim. I think it was like $1,700 or something that you paid for that report.
Yeah.
As you know, was well worth it. But he was able to do that 10 months after the storm. And most adjusters, if they were coming back for reinspection without that report, they would have stuck their meter in the wall and say, it's dry. And I would say, no, let's tear open that wall. And it said, no, we're not going to do any invasive.
I think people would think, oh, well, I already signed off on that claim. I'm done. I don't have any rights.
Oftentimes, most often when I get involved, Francis, is they've already received money. Maybe they had a loss and the insurance company says, we're going to pay you $50,000. And eventually they get a contractor out there and the contractor says, actually, I think you have $150,000 damage.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you do? And that's when they find out, hey, there's someone called a public adjuster that can go to task for me.
What's the first thing I need to do if I think I'm going to file a claim?
So I would look at my policy. That's something that I would get early on. You need to determine the damages. I have 4 little blog articles, and one of them is called Your Insurance Claim, a Call to Action. And I talk about 4 important steps if you're having to file a claim. Of course, I have my damage checklist too. This is a document that you would use to help you determine, the damages. And you don't have to be the only one doing it. Have your wife, have your husband, have your teenage son or daughter walk around the house and check these things off if there's damage. So when that insurance adjuster comes, say, go find all your damage. And when they're done, they say, by the way, I found this too. And they're not going to ignore you. You already got bad claims handling an issue. But they're probably going to say, oh, well, let me go revisit this. And they're going to find the things that you found because no one knows your house as well as you, right? And then when you have a contractor come, you have the same checklist and say, these are the things that are damaged. Contractor A, contractor B, contractor C, you're getting competitive bids. They're all looking at the same list. So you get apples for apples. If your house burned down, it's going to be up to you to provide them a list of all the things that you used to have and also to tell them how much all that costs. It's going to be upon your shoulders. So that's a really valuable tool. And I have that on my website. Of course, we'll make it available for all your listeners. I'll send that to them free. And that's just the beginning. If you arrive home and your house is flooded, you've been on vacation and you see water coming out your front door, your home is smoking and on fire, you're going to be filing a claim at that point. So first of all, you need to make sure you're safe. If you need to call the fire company or call a plumber or whatever to stop the damage from continuing, absolutely do that. Be very careful. You're not going to go in your home if there's a fire. If there's a gas leak, don't go in your home. Of course, safety is number 1. Number 2 is you should call your agent, and either your agent will help you file your claim, or you can call your insurance company. Perhaps you have their number, and they'll give you a claim number. So you need to express what it is. Now, if you're not sure if you need to file a claim, but you think you might need to, maybe people around you are getting new roofs because there was a hailstorm, you weren't there, and you're thinking, maybe I deserve a new roof. Well, then there are things that you can do to help determine if you need to file a claim. If you look at your policy, on your policy page, and it's important you have your policy, when you file your claim, or if you're considering it, you need to call your agent. If you don't know where your policy is, just say, send me a copy. In this day and age, they can usually pull it up within 5 minutes and send you your policy. So your policy is going to have your deductible. So let's say you had a $500,000 policy. Well, you might have a $5,000 deductible. My damage checklist will help you very quickly to assess if your claim is going to exceed your deductible. But that's on the marginal ones. So those are two of the first things that you need to do.
Thanks. What about the idea that people are afraid to file a claim because they think they'll be canceled? So if I file too many claims, they're going to cancel my policy.
Yeah. Okay. If your claim is weather related, you could have 5 claims in 1 year and it's not going to make a difference. Now, if you have a plumbing leak, and they go in and they say, well, you had an old valve and it rusted and it broke. And then 3 months later, you file another plumbing claim because you had another old valve in another part of the house because your plumbing hasn't been updated for 50 years. Then they're going to begin to look at the risk and the type of claim. And different states have different laws, so I can't comment on this universally. But usually, after 2 claims in 1 year, they have the option to cancel you. Sometimes insurers also get in positions that may not really necessarily be related to you. If you have an insurer that covers a lot of homes in a coastal area and they had 100,000 claims because of a hurricane, and they usually had 5, and they say, well, we're withdrawing our coverage from this area, but that may not be related to you. If you feel being treated unjustly, you can always consult with an attorney. But there are rules regarding cancellation. Always make sure your premiums are made. If you forget your premium in the midst of something, then you're kind of canceling it yourself.
For people who are thinking, okay, I want to maybe get a public adjuster or a private adjuster, sometimes we call them.
Sure.
And so I'm thinking this seems like a good idea, but gee, I'm really afraid I'm going to stir up a hornet's nest. This person is going to argue with my insurance company and my adjuster, and I'm going to end up with, bad blood between me and my homeowner's policy, and they're never going to insure me again. To get past that fear, I mean, I can say that personally, I never got any phone call from anybody after you started working with them. It was as if I handed it to an attorney, although you're not, and I said, you deal with it. But can you just assure people that that is the way it is?
Yeah, that's a great question. We all like to be treated the way we treat other people. And in my interactions with you, Francis, I know that you're kind, that you care about people, you want to help them. Well, most insurance agents are like that. And a lot of people we buy from our friends, or if they weren't our friends, they become our friend. And that's all good. But your insurance agent is going to have nothing to do with your claim. If you file a claim, they're not going to be the ones investigating it, and they're not going to be the ones documenting it. And if you feel that you're unsatisfied, you complain to them. The best they can do is pop off an email and complain. One of the documents that every public adjuster will need to send is a letter of representation, just like an attorney would send, although it's for a public adjuster. And in that letter of representation, it'll state something like, I'm not waiving my rights in regard to my claim, but I've authorized Mr. or Mrs. Public Adjuster to represent me, and please communicate with them directly regarding my claim. So it frees you up from having to get in a debate or a negotiation scenario or saying, look, I think what you did is wrong. You're removed from the equation.
All that was happening with me is I was calling them. They were appeasing me. They were saying, oh, yes, we've got your information. Yes, we'll file. Yes, we'll do this.
Yeah.
Another week. And then sooner or later, they were going to tell me that they couldn't pay me. Is Lola making a cameo? Hi, Lola. Lola likes to make cameos in our videos.
Maybe I'll have to bring in Lila, my little Australian Shepherd, sometime.
Lila and Lola, yeah. Rick, I have one more question I want to ask you for this segment, and then I'll let you go. And thank you very much for your time again. But it's this: when is it too late? Let's suppose I already filed a claim. I've already taken the money the insurance company has sent me. When is it too late to hire a public adjuster?
The only time it's too late is really when there's a statute of limitations. That'll be in your policy. Some states it's 2 years. Some states it's 3. You may have and it's the same way to file a lawsuit, but that'll be in there. The statute of limitations, it'll be written in your policy. If you're considering hiring a public adjuster, there are 3 things that I typically ask for. Can you have any pictures that you can send me? Can you send me a copy of your policy? And can you send me any correspondence? I'll open up your policy. I'll look for the statute of limitations. I'll look for the date of loss. I'll look for the amount of coverage that you have, and I'll look at, so yeah, the statute of limitations is important.
I want to thank you for spending so much time with us and offering this information to people. If somebody wants to reach you, how would they reach you? Can you give us a phone number?
Uh, well, the best way would just be go on my website, www.myinsuranceadjuster.com. Think of this: your insurance company has their adjuster. Why shouldn't you have your own? I'm going to call my insurance adjuster.
Rick Carter, author of How to Settle Your Claim. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with your viewers.
Thanks, Rick. Talk to you soon.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Your success is our goal, so please contact us if we can be of further assistance.